as the Israelis and the Palestinians continue to negotiate for the framework of the beginning of the peace talks, a group of right-wing scholars called the Professors for a Strong Israel has come together to discuss a fresh view for the two-state solution. Two states for two peoples on two banks of the Jordan River. Can this be a feasible alternative? Tzipi Chotovelli, who as Deputy Minister of Transportation was the highest official from the government attending the conference, admits the peace negotiations are going nowhere, so it's time to rethink the paradigm and come up with a new solution.
I think our goal here is to offer alternatives to the idea of the two-state solution the way it's offered at the moment, because as we saw in the past, it didn't work. It's not going to work this time. Jerusalem, the refugees, and the borders are three issues that no Palestinian can give to the negotiation table what the Israelis can accept. This is why I think this conference is so essential, and I think the conclusions are pretty much new thinking, changing the paradigm, and I think I'll go to the Prime Minister and throughout the negotiation, and I will say your party is not supporting the idea of the two-state solution. I think it's about time to rethink about alternatives.
Former member of the Knesset and the force behind the conference, Professor Aryeh Eldad, says it is time to make a distinction between who is a full citizen and who is just a resident in Israel.
I hope that today's discussion will show the availability of another option, an alternative plan for the two-state solution, which is two states for two people on both sides of the Jordan River. Palestine will be east to the Jordan River, Israel will be west to the Jordan. We will share and we will have differentiation between citizenship and residency. The Arabs west to the Jordan will be residents of Israel and citizens of the Palestinian state in Jordan.
Dr. Mudar Zaharan, Secretary General of the New Jordan Party, claims the peace talks have become a rat race which is going nowhere.
I think everyone knows by now that the so-called peace process is a rat race that's going nowhere. As a Jordanian Palestinian leader, I have a commitment towards my people's interest. So I'm here today in a time of change to represent my people and to make sure that they get the best deal on things, to be honest, in the change to come. Most of our people in the West Bank hold Jordanian passports and travel with Jordanian passports. The segregation came into existence only with King Abdullah, King Hussein's son, who started withdrawing passports and preventing Palestinians in the West Bank from going into Jordan. Nonetheless, 30,000 Palestinians still relocate to Jordan permanently every year. I'm not here to advocate Jordan as Palestine as much as to advocate that there is a coming storm in Jordan, and that's going to have a huge impact on us Jordanians and also inflame Israel's eastern borders. Now, there's an opportunity in every obstacle. If we manage to get a secular government into Jordan after the king leaves, all the opportunities are open for the best.
Dr. Mordechai Nissan of the Hebrew University admits being the Oslo Accords haven't been doing what they should have. Now is the time for the leaders to start talking about a Palestinian state east of the Jordan River.
The Oslo conception, I believe, is fossilized, is moribund. The idea of two states west of the river, that is, a Palestinian state west of the river, contiguous to Israel, is a political non-starter. And the fact that for 20 years it hasn't been implemented is proof of that. Therefore, the idea that Arab aspirations should be realized east of the river in Jordan is a very reasonable political option. And I think it's part of the overall drift of Palestinian migration over many decades into Jordan. And therefore, the option as such is sociologically guaranteed in history, and it becomes politically reasonable based on the fact that there is not likely to be a Palestinian state west of the river, and therefore east of the river should be where we're looking for that.
Jerusalem Post columnist Yael Amishav predicts Jordan is the next country to go through its Arab Spring.
Jordan is a basket case. It's on the point of having regime change any minute, and it is our goal to make it sooner rather than later. In fact, King Abdallah has a plane full of gold waiting in his compound just in case, and we wanted to make it sooner rather than later.
The Jordanian opposition leader Zaharan claims if we won't act now, things might get out of control in Jordan too.
When the king of Jordan falls, and he himself believes he's going to fall, we will have the Palestinian majority of 87.7% electing a Palestinian president of Jordan, be it a Hamas president or a secular president. And again, if we have a Palestinian majority with a Palestinian president in a Palestinian state that's already established, it sure is much easier than establishing vague dreams. If we end up with Hamas president in Jordan after the king falls, we're looking into a much deeper, much more complicated problem than Syria, that's going to burn the whole region. Believe the king himself. He told Senator Lindsey Graham that I don't think I'm going to be in power within a year, and he said the same thing to General Dempsey, the U.S. Chief of Staff. So take it from the horse's mouth, prepare for the storm to come, or else we all going down the drain.
So can this really be a viable solution to the deadlock of the peace negotiations, or has the ship for this option already sailed? The delegates at this conference are certain that this solution is what is needed to finish for once and for all the over 60-year-old conflict. For Jane 1, I'm Ron Jacobson at the Menachem Begin Heritage Center in Jerusalem.